Hey guys, welcome to Crossroads 1010. For those of you that are in this winter season, I hope you are staying warm and getting what you need to get done in spite of the cold, because it's harder in the winter season. And speaking of winter season, the topic is if the flag triggers you, and I want to stay true to that topic. In the winter season, there's not as many aesthetics to get lost in. It's hard to take a nature walk. It's hard to look at trees. It's hard to look at flowers. It's hard to feel good about anything. And I would say in the United States right now, there's some similar sentiments, regardless on what side of the divide that one may feel that he or she is on. I can tell you that normally when I see a flag, I get knots in my stomach. Especially if it's on somebody's arm, on their car, a large one on their lawn. And recently, I even had one plastered while I was interviewing. I had one that was plastered in the background, very subtle watermark during the team's video. So let's just say from there, that's when the thought came to me, which was causing cognitive dissonance. And why? Because I really liked the interviewer. I was interviewing, maybe third interview, neck and neck with a couple companies. And this particular interviewer had a really engaging conversation. We talked about kind of like the old interviews. How do I describe myself, but also how do I see myself? How do I see my contributions? And in the back of my mind, I was thinking when I first started interviewing with this organization, they use the phrase, do you have the core values? We're looking for people that have the core values while never stating the core values. I personally had a bad experience with a similar makeup of an organization where they asked me those questions, they spoke about values, and as soon as my probationary period was over, they let me go. And there could be a million reasons why, but I will tell you this. I've never just been let go for a production job. I was let go basically because they hired me for one position and then had me do another position. And when I began to ask questions, I was out of there by 90 days. So, but I would categorize that particular organization as one that had nationalistic tendencies along with their core values. Whatever that means to you. If you're on the liberal side of the divide, it may mean that there weren't many other people of color there. As far as when 4th of July came up, it was a big thing. Hey, we're all American, I get it, but right now it's a divisive time. So maybe about then I started to put my spidey senses on about when I would see people with flags. And this wasn't just what came out of the organization. This had come up a long time ago. I had served 12 to 15 years. If you've seen any of my other videos within the church, I ended up serving a church which started off for social justice 12 years ago, but ended up with a clear divide because of politics. I ended up leaving because I didn't feel like I was on the same side of the politics, and I needed to experience the world differently, which was one of the best decisions that I made. But what I had noticed is that every time I did see a flag, and the reason I brought up this denomination because I had gone to a let's say it was kind of like it was a awesome expression of theology at the bar. I think it was called Spirit on Tap or something like that. No, it wasn't Spirit on Tap. Something like that though. And something with a twist. There it is. Theology with a twist. There you go. Spirit on Tap was something else that was pretty good too. But anyway, theology with the twist. And this is before the 2024 elections. And one of the topics was politics, and yes, very divisive. I was the only person of color in the room. I simply enjoyed, and I was with pretty much older Americans, and let's say 3/4 of the room, surprisingly, was more liberal in their politics, but it was the 1/4 that I really was glad had showed up. I was going to say showed out. That is not a Freudian slip. But anyway, they showed up and a couple people were at my table. Now, mind you, these are faithful churchgoers. These are pastors, people who have worked administratively in churches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it came up that every time someone puts a flag out on their lawn, it doesn't mean that, they're a nationalist, or it doesn't mean that they don't like people of color. But in our conversations, it was hard to see outside of my perspective, because I'm like, even if you don't feel that way, you do know what's majority assigned to that particular symbolism. Even as a Christian, if I see a cross, sometimes the cross has been used in instances publicly where the person displaying the cross may not have been as truthful or appeared to lack integrity. Do I let that diminish the symbol of the cross? No. But does that change the perspective or even impact the power from our instance of the cross? I would still say no if your relationship with God is internal. But if it is external, then yes, it does change the perspective of the cross. So now let's look at the flag. I have relatives in my family that have served in the military, since most people I come across in the church are veterans in some way, either first or second generation. So therefore, does a person like or dislike America more, depending on what the connotation is behind the flag? Today, well, I would say the same answer as to the cross. You may begin to define yourself differently, but if you feel a need to love the freedoms that this country was based off of, however you see those freedoms being acted out, I would hope it comes from within and not what you see on the outside. So then what is the reason that the flag could be triggering? And I would say, in the instance of that interview, even though I love talking to the individual, in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but asking, well, is this one going to reject me in some manner? Until today, I was getting ready to put the trash out. I noticed there was a guy doing work. He had the flag on his shoulders. I noticed my favorite supermarket, I noticed someone had the flag on their sleeve, and I'm like, well, are they getting a group together, or are they part of a group that in the end, if we divide, will be some type of civil dissension? This time I refuse to not think in that manner. We greeted each other hello. I went over to the trash. There was another guy there who was like, hey, do you want me to help you out? I said, thank you. And then it hits me, all of the time that I was in the supermarket or Wawa, or even in this interview, there was a person that was nice in my experience, and I'm a good judge of energy. I've also walked past people's energy that maybe didn't have a flag, and I definitely could tell they weren't feeling me for whatever reason, right? Maybe they just wasn't feeling anyone. But the bottom line is, I decided today that I'm tired of making my decisions about people due to external factors. So we may train ourselves not to discriminate based off of someone's faith, someone's race, someone's gender, or how someone presents themselves. I have to say, bias is in our souls. We tend to look at differences and make decisions before we even consciously know we are making decisions. So what do I suggest? I suggest the training of the subconscious. And one thing that the subconscious does, and my cat is definitely making an appearance, one thing that the subconscious does is it presents us a reality, or enters into a reality, to help jog our thoughts, our memories of who we really are in this reality. And one thing I can tell you, the fact that I subconsciously was noticing this symbolism, but at that same time having different interactions, was saying to me, go deeper. And if you don't think you're having issues with people's differences, you do. Because if you turn on the TV and see X, Y, and Z, then there's just a chance that you're going to believe X, Y, and Z by everyone attached to that symbolism. And that's what I'm saying to you. There is crazy crap going on TV right now. Do I say turn off the TV? No. Do I say inundate your life with television and news and negativity? No. But what I do say is make the change within, as within, so without. If I'm calling myself a Christian, I call myself a Christian mystic for a reason, because I like to have my interactions first with the divine from within before I look without. And right now, the divine is challenging me. Are you going to judge people by their symbols? Or are you going to use your intuitive sense, your good mind, and your love for humanity first? I say the latter and not the former. All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and God bless.